Okay, everybody, here we go. It is me, Gregory Manarino. It is Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. I want to start off with this. The World Bank is warning of a lost decade. Now, why would they be saying that? No shock to you, no shock to me at all. So, this is what the World Bank has to say. Global growth has now dropped to a 30-year low. Now, duh. We have a global economy. It's over. Let me explain this to you in case you don't know. It's over. Yesterday, I showed you a chart of the money velocity. We peaked in 1997, the rate at which cash moves through an economy here in the United States. Since 1997, the money velocity has been in a steady free fall. All right. Now, again, we've been sold lie after deception, after distraction from this administration, the one prior to that, and the one prior to that, and keep going here, that we're booming. We're just doing fantastic. You can't have that. It's impossible to have a booming economy or even an economy that's doing well if the rate at which cash is moving through the economy continues to fall. Now, with that said, I forgot to mention this yesterday. Manufacturing, U.S. manufacturing, it's a dead sector. Okay, we're not making anything here in the United States. We're not exporting anything anymore. As a matter of fact, what do we find out this morning? The U.S. trade deficit continues to widen. People, debts, deficits, and the economy itself, not just here in the United States, but around the world, is in free fall. Don't take Greg Manarino's word for this anymore. I've been telling you this since I don't know how freaking long, but listen to the World Bank. Global growth craters to a 30-year low. Okay? I think that requires a duh. And like I said, manufacturing is dead. U.S. trade gap continues to widen. Now, you've heard me, and I've actually done your own research on this, cover many, many times. We've talked about this over and over, how the place to be moving forward is commodities, commodities, commodities. So famed investor Jim Rogers, okay, he sounds exactly like Greg Manarino. I wonder if Jim Rogers follows my work. Probably not. But this is what he had to say about commodities. Commodities are the place to be as global debt skyrockets. If that doesn't sound like Greg Manarino, I don't know what does. But so again, don't listen to Greg Manarino here. Listen to Jim Rogers. I think he's completely right here. Look, what do we know is going on, people? It always comes down to what we know. And what we know, what's in our freaking face here, is global debt is going to balloon, and especially in this environment. Again, what do we have going on here? We're in a full-blown banking crisis yet again. And, excuse me, man, my nose is running. And you got, all the propaganda. We're fine. We're perfect. It's liquid, and everything is just beautiful. Meanwhile, we have this emergency funding for the banking system here. We got central banks, none more so than the Fed, pumping hundreds of billions of dollars into the system. I mean, this just doesn't add up here. Obviously, there's a big, huge problem, and I think that requires another duh. So understanding that the mechanism. See, look, this is by design as well, because you and I have covered right here, I don't know, for years and years and years and years, that the mechanism demands that cash be pulled into the now from the future and dispersed wherever they want to disperse it to, whether it's expanding wars or saving, or pumping cash into a dying, zombified banking system. It's all part of the same mechanism here, to allow central banks to inflate. People, nobody knows this better than you do, but I want to say it again here. The power of a central bank resides in one thing, which means if we can take this one thing away from central banks, we can take the system down. Okay? The power of a central bank resides in one thing. That one thing is its ability to inflate. The more cash a central bank issues to the world in the form. Cash is debt. You understand that? These are not units of wealth. These are units of debt. A central bank creates this stuff out of nothing, their product, and disperses it to you and I. And we have the pleasure, we should get on our hands and knees to be able to transact in their product, which we don't even own. You and I, okay, we work for these things here. Okay, we work for these central bank issued notes that we don't even own. They're owned by the issuing central bank. They're owed back to the issuing central bank, plus interest that they create out of nothing. It's the most twisted system in the history of the world. When we left a commodity-backed or gold standard, which is a wealth-based system, we lost. And central banks continue to tighten the noose on the world as they continue to issue their product to the world here. And we're never, ever going back. I don't care what any of you may think, because I know there's some YouTubers talking about it. We're never going back to a wealth-based system. A wealth-based system would restrain spending. A wealth-based system would prevent wars. This is why our forefathers wanted a gold-backed system. They thought it would prevent war, which they would have been right, because it would restrain spending. Central banks rely, their power resides again in their ability to inflate, their ability to issue debt to the world. That's their one and only product. When you hear Federal Reserve Chairperson Yellowstone Powell talk about tools, he talks about his tools all the time. All they do, the Fed, is manipulate debt. That's all. They have one tool, debt. That's it. And they can mess with it and play with it and issue it and maybe try to contract it, which they're not doing here. The biggest lie, one of the biggest lies that's been sold to the people of the world is that central banks are trying to somehow, especially here in the United States with the Fed, contract the money supply. The money supply has been ballooning here. This whole issue with inflation is a money supply problem. That's all it is, okay? And the real reason why they're raising rates is to slow the economy, to kill the economy. And according to the World Bank, we just hit a 30-year low with regard to global growth. So that means we're not growing, we're cratering. You understand? But again, this is no surprise to you. It's no surprise to anyone that follows this blog. And it's not going to stop. So what are we going to do? Okay, what's the solution here? Betting against the debt. Becoming your own central bank. Period here. Let's look over at this market. So right now on the back of what clearly is a zombified failing banking system here that's going to be pumped full of more cash from ether, from nothing, just created. Central banks is flooding the world with more of their product. Imagine our shock. You and I knew this was going to happen. It can't stop. It will never stop. And the side effect of this is going to be much higher inflation here. But who'll be held to account? Nobody. Who's going to pay for it? You are. You are. Period. Anyway, so stock futures right now are slightly lower. 10-year yield, slightly higher. There is a little bit of a sell-off here in the debt market. Relative strength of the dollar, slightly lower. MMRI, slightly higher. Gold and silver catching a bid this morning. Cryptocurrencies under a little bit of pressure except for XRP. XRP has been catching a nice bid lately. It's very volatile. Cryptocurrencies are volatile, but XRP is looking pretty here. Looking very pretty to me. All right. Crude oil, after that over 5% jump yesterday, under a little bit of pressure this morning. That's where we stand. All right, now let me put another perspective on this for you. The stock market today remains still in a place known as La La Land. There's no connection between what's happening in the economy and the market. Again, don't listen to Greg Mannarino. The World Bank is allowing you to know a little bit of truth, that the global growth is at a 30-year low. Basically, they're saying it's kind of over too, just like manufacturing here in the United States. There's a big transition going on here to not just a whole new monetary system, but again, as you well know, if you follow this blog, to a new feudal system on an unprecedented scale. And this is honestly in our face as central banks are working to crush the economy. It's working. By crushing the economy, they're killing the consumer. The consumer is suffering, and I'm telling you right now, the suffering of the consumer hasn't even begun here, okay? We're going to get hit with a tidal wave beyond the biggest tidal wave we've ever seen with regard to inflation. It's going to slam all of us, and I hope you're ready for it here. There is no way to stop it. Central banks are determined to continue to inflate. They're now pumping the banking system full of hundreds of billions, soon to be trillions of dollars in cash to prop up the zombie system long enough for mergers to happen. Mergers between institutions to contract it, okay? I think we've covered this at length here. A consolidation of the banking system is key to allowing their new system to work. They have to contract it. They have to consolidate power into fewer and fewer and fewer institutions. And I think that's pretty much in our face as well, people. All right, look, we've covered a lot here. I want to hear from you. And again, I want to give a shout out here to Jim Rogers. Yes, Jim Rogers. Yes, commodities are the place to be. I agree with you on that. And I'm glad that someone of your stature, sir, is willing to go out on a limb and say, hey, you know what? This is what people need to do. Because I've been telling people that for the longest time. It just makes sense. All right. Anyway, with that said, people, I'm going to let you all go. Love you a lot. Please comment. Please share the video. A thumbs up always makes me happy. Okay. It takes a nanosecond to hit that little thumbs up button, that little heart, whatever it is down there. Please do that. I will see all of you for the live stream, 1:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's all.